All right, let's welcome our first guest then. Tom Albanese, the MD and CEO of Vedanta, joins in from the sidelines of the MOTILAL OSWAL Global Investor Conference, which is underway. Hi, Mr. Albanese. Good afternoon. Thanks much for speaking with CNBC-TV18. My first question to you is regarding the promoter stake. Now, we've seen that you've been raising stake in SESA STERLITE. So this year, promoters have hiked the stake by 2%. So would you look at hiking it further still this year? What is the rationale? Could there be a possible merger with CAIRN India that's on the cards?
Well, look, our main focus is to take the businesses of SESA STERLITE and bring them up to their full capacity. So it's about getting the aluminum production up, getting the iron ore production up. Vedanta has seen opportunities to acquire some shares in SESA STERLITE. That's what's basically done, but it doesn't take away from that main objective of creating the full value that we can in SESA STERLITE. We've said over time, with the fullness of time, we want to look for opportunities to simplify the business, because many of our investors are saying they'd like to see a simplified corporate structure, and that's what we were so successful with doing last year with the SESA STERLITE merger. We'll just take that a step at a time.
Hi, Mr. Albanese. Thanks so much for joining in this afternoon. Just sticking with that. Just sticking with that point, you've bought around 2% so far this year. Will you all go and buy another 3%?
Look, I think we just, as I said, we're focusing on taking those businesses like iron ore, like aluminum, and getting them up to their capacity. And again, you know, I don't want to speculate on anything on a going forward basis. You know, of course, that we want to always look for opportunities, but the main emphasis is to get all the businesses of SESA STERLITE, every cylinder of that engine firing on as it should be.
All right. So, Mr. Albanese, then with regard to Hindustan Zinc, there's a lot of clarity that's awaited. In fact, your last approved offer is around $3.48 million for Hindustan Zinc as well as Balco. Now, if in case this offer is not considered and if an OFS has to take place, will the Vedanta Group participate? Can they participate, given that, in fact, you're already holding a substantial chunk in Hindustan Zinc? What's exactly happening with regard to Hindustan Zinc?
Yes, I think, first of all, we have to wait and see what the government does and what their intentions are. Very clearly, the government has made its intention that they want to disinvestment of its residual stakes in both Hindustan Zinc and in Balco. Of course, it wants to do it once it's come through its full valuation. And it's appointed valuers, and that work, as I understand, is underway as we speak. You know, it looks like it's going to be an auction process, and again, we're very happy to participate in that auction. We haven't seen the details of that, nor has they've been released. Pretty much what we see is what we see in your news show in terms of the information that's been provided. So we'll take it again as it goes, as the government indicates steps. We do look forward to participating in that auction process. So.
Hey, Mr. Albanese, in Rajasthan, CAIRN India has received the environmental clearance to hike oil production to 3 lakh barrels a day, I understand. So could you detail what kind of impact or added benefit this would present?
Yes, this is good news. I think to some extent it recognizes the fact that we have been a very good neighbor in Rajasthan. We've been a very important part of Rajasthan's economy and its total revenues. And it's a reinforcement of a strong CSR footprint that we have on the ground in Rajasthan. We got those environmental approvals. Now, what we'd like to do, as we currently undertake our efforts to go through the polymer project, the field enhancement project, to take the existing reservoirs and keep their production constant. We want to bring in future reservoirs and future formations, notably Balmer Hill Formation and notably the deep gas. We want to bring those into production. And over the next several years, we do intend to use a lot of the latest in North American technology. We're already beginning to do some good trial work with horizontal drilling and other technologies that will allow us to get the full extraction from those resources. It's truly a huge world-class resource. CAIRN India has been one of the largest, fastest growing of the independent producers on a worldwide basis over the past 2 years. We want to stay on that pace. So getting the approvals underway to 300,000 barrels per oil a day is that important step. Now what we've got to do is to put in the horizontal wells, to put in the efforts, the technical efforts, the geologic efforts, infrastructure. We want to put a gas pipeline in, a larger gas pipeline. These are all going to be part of a continued success story at CAIRN India.
Okay, but Mr. Albanese, now to the news which was not taken so well by your investors. In the quarter gone by, we saw a related party loan of about $1.25 billion which was given to a SESA subsidiary. So now we do know that, SESA is a company that requires periodic funding. So could we see more such loans going forward?
Look, I think that was a unique situation where there were U.S.-denominated cash balances at CAIRN that were otherwise getting a very low rate of return, and SESA certainly able to provide the CAIRN shareholders with a higher rate of return. It was evaluated by the independent directors of CAIRN. It was done in a way which was compliant with regulations, and certainly that's our interest, is to do things in accordance with good governance and certainly in compliance with regulations.
All right, Mr. Albanese, let's talk about your alumina business. In fact, your Lanchika refinery has been given the go-ahead. It can increase production. Currently, in fact, it's around 1 million tons odd. Are you looking at upping that? If you're looking at upping that, where are you going to source your bauxite from? Break that down for us.
Yes, thank you. I mean, as we look at the success that we're now having to build up our production capacity at Balco, we hope to do the same thing at Jarasuga in Odisha. And we do have a vision to take our current capacity of about 750,000 tons of aluminium to 2.3 million tons of aluminium in the future. We should find our own source of alumina. And Lanchika is a very logical place for that. We're currently running our Lanchika facility at its current approved capacity of about 1 million tons per year. We'd hope with access to bauxite from Odisha and the nearby areas that we could be ramping it up to 2 million tons per year, and then ultimately resume construction up to maybe 3, then up to 5 million tons per year. But to be clear, we're looking for bauxite in Odisha that would be consistent with environmental regulations and also in areas that the local communities want the development. And in Nirajiri bauxite and anywhere else where communities didn't want the development, we'll go somewhere else. So we'll make it very clear, Lanchika feedstock, bauxite feedstock, will come from those locations where those communities want the jobs, want the development.
So you're confident that you're going to get some bauxite reserves out of there?
We've had some success with the government of Odisha over the past few months. We have 3 laterite leases we're looking at. They're not big enough to justify the whole expansion, but again, it's about getting initial bauxite to show we can develop that bauxite or laterite and then put it in as the feedstock for Lanchika, and then progressively take success and let that build on to future success.
All right, Mr. Albanese, a final question from my end with regard to your Jarasuga smelter. Now, you all have been looking to start that 1.25 million ton plant. That's one. And with regard to your power plant that you all are looking to convert it from an IPP to basically using it for your captive source. How's that plan working out? And also with regard to e-auction coal, that availability has been dipping. So how are you going to really manage the power business in that part of the world, given that, in fact, the PLF has dipped to around 45% approximately?
Yeah, let's start with the aluminium smelting capacity. In the first instance, we've got existing CPP capacity to put about 50 pots, or about 50,000 tons per year, online in the near future, and we hope to do that here in the near term, hopefully within the next month or so. And like at Balco, we want to be able to put additional pots in. It's a good aluminum market for us to do so. It's good for our shareholders. It actually creates additional jobs in the Jarasuga area. So I think it's a win-win for everyone. Ultimately, we have a number of power units that are IPP, and they were configured as IPP because the smelters weren't ready at the time. And we would like to find some opportunity to take our power generating capacity and use it for our aluminum smelting capacity. So it may be a conversion of IPP to CPP. It may be the creation of special economic zones. It may be some type of swap or something that would be consistent with cross-tariff agreements, cross-subsidy agreements. We'll look at what works for us, what works for the state of Odisha, what works for Gridco, and all the stakeholders, because we would like to bring Jarasuga up to its full capacity, and that's our pathway to 2.3 million tons in total. Clearly, aluminum smelting requires a lot of energy. We have the power generating capacity. We need the coal. And we're currently, nationwide, we're dealing with coal shortages, which for me, it's a bit of a paradox. I'm from the global mining space. I see India blessed with some of the best coal resources in the world. India has become one of the largest, if not the largest, coal importer in the world. So something's wrong. Something is wrong with the inability of India to produce its own coal from its own resources, and the resources are plentiful. So hopefully we'll all see a solution. In the meantime, we've seen a cutback in e-auction tonnage. As a consequence of that, we've had to scramble. We've had to buy more from the imported markets. Clearly, it's more expensive to be importing. It's not economically efficient. Here we are sitting right in the middle of the coal field, and we're buying coal from Indonesia, South Africa, all over the world, and we're basically bringing, I think they probably have trains coming from the coast into Jarasuga bringing coal in, and we probably have other trains going the opposite direction from Jarasuga out toward the coast with coal in the other direction. So there's a policy issue here that hopefully will be resolved. It won't be quickly, but over time.
All right, Mr. Albanese, let's hope that in fact that is resolved. But also, one final question. What's the outlook with regard to global metal prices? What's the trajectory, particularly with regard to aluminum? Because that one, at one point of time, was hovering around that $1,800 levels. Currently, it's moved up beyond $2,000. So give us your take with regard to the global metal prices, and particularly with regard to aluminum.
Yeah, I think that for copper, for zinc, for aluminum, we're seeing global demand growth of maybe 4% or more, which is more than global GDP growth. So that bodes well for the metals and the mining sector. I think aluminum, while it's fairly narrow, the margins between supply and demand, and that's why we've seen aluminum prices rising from about $1,700 up to something in excess of $2,000 per ton LME. We're still in an environment where most of the world's smelters are actually not profitable, and as a consequence, physical aluminum supplies have dropped off. So the physical premiums for aluminum have ballooned out to $400 per ton, which is quite unusual in terms of the history of aluminum pricing. So we're dealing with, on a global basis, although higher, they're still lower than equilibrium LME prices, but higher physical premium. And I think that, in many ways, is a consequence of the fact that during the global financial crisis in 2009, large stocks of aluminum were built up in above-ground stockpiles. And that stockpile effect has been dampening the markets. Until we see those stockpiles worked off the market, we're going to see this very unusual circumstance of low LME, high physical premiums take place in the market.
All right, Mr. Albanese, we have many more questions to ask you, but we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining in. A pleasure speaking with you.
Great to be here today.